evening, viewers. Thank you very much for watching Punchline Africa Television from the Political Command Center in London. This is David Matsanga. It's 17 minutes past 7 o'clock East African Standard Time, and it is 17 minutes past 5 o'clock East African, London time. Thank you very much for watching this show, Matsanga Africa Perspective. Thank you very much again for being our people, our supporters for this continent of Africa. Thank you again, our listeners, our viewers, our satellite carriers, those who carry our satellite in Berlin via SBSC. Thank you again. Thank you. This show is a show you cannot miss. Look at this show. We talk about economy. We talk about politics. We talk about social life. We talk about morality. We talk about what ails Africa. In 1884, Bismarck decided to call a conference in Berlin to divide Africa into partition Africa into small entities based on the mountain, the valley, the river, the forest, the desert, based on what they call a geographical approach, that they had already studied more geography than the rest of us on the continent who inhabited this huge continent of Africa. From that time, therefore, we had a problem, and we still have that problem of a divided and a ruled Africa, that it cannot see forward, neither can it see backwards, neither can it see the center, neither can it see the hole that sinks. It sinks in every day. It tries to make a movement. African leaders have become merchants, brokers of the West. Does it look so nice for you to see African people selling medicines of Russia, displaying the medicines of Russia? What happened to us in Africa? This evening, my panel is composed of Dr. Joseph Nyanchama. Good evening, Dr. Joseph Nyanchama. Dr. Joseph Nyanchama is a lecturer. He holds a master's degree in business administration, and he can talk for himself, and he holds a doctorate in management and other attributes. He likes talking about humanity, human beings. Who are we? Welcome to the show, Dr. Joseph Nyanchama.
Good evening, viewers. I'm happy to be here today, this time, wherever you are listening from. It's good that we speak about Africa and change it for the future generation. Please be seated and wait and hear the word. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Joseph Nyanchama, a comrade, a friend at arms, for joining us this evening. On the far right, I have Douglas Kirimi, the bulldozer of Africa, the man himself who bulldozes, the man feared by President Faramajo to Somalia. Douglas is a brand creator, the student of politics, is a marketer, He will talk for himself. Test the machines. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dr. Matsanga, and thank you for having me on the show. And thank you for the question that we ask on Matsanga Africa perspective. Shall we be the only voices that shall be speaking in the desert about Africa? Shall we help our comrades, the people of Africa, join our only voices in Africa by speaking for Africa and living for Africa? Because the voice of the African person is being stifled day and night. Dr. Matsanga, as we speak and answer this question tonight, I'm grateful to be on this panel and I'm grateful to be on this television tonight. I hope this discussion is going to get to the right people, and to the right people is to the people of Africa. Thank you, Dr. Matsanga.
Thank you very much, Comrade Douglas Kirimi from Meru. Another gentleman from Kiligoris, all the way from Narok. Ole Sisana Tawish Samuel, our projects manager, special assignments, detective in journalism, investigative journalism. Samuel Tawish has worked together with me for many years. It spans back to about 14 years back when we first met each other, when I was handling the Uganda peace process and the International Criminal Court. Thank you very much. Welcome to the show, Tawish.
Thank you so much, Dr. David Matsanga and my fellow panelists. Thank you so much for this opportunity to allow me also to join these eminent panelists to discuss these very pertinent issues regarding or concerning our continent of Africa. I'm very happy, and it's my pleasure to have my contribution actually get through this night. Dr. Matsanga, back to you.
Thank you very much. Last but not least is none other than Sean Wesonga, our investigative journalist, a man who speaks with a voice equivalent to the ocean coming with a tsunami. Thank you very much, my dear comrade, Sean Wesonga, all the way from the CBD of Nairobi. This is Matsanga Africa Perspective. Touch the microphone.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Matsanga David in London, and good evening to you. Good evening to Dr. Joseph Nanchama, my good friend Douglas Kirimi, my brother Tarwish Olesesina, and our viewers all over the world. Today, I want to thank you, Dr. Matsanga, for giving us this platform to be able to boldly talk about the issues regards to our own continent, Africa. And today I believe that we're gonna be dissecting them quite boldly and without missing any words. Thank you, Dr. Matsanga.
Thank you very much, the panel. If you want to join us, look at our poster. The number for joining us on Zoom is 399-535 and 8320. Then you press the postcode, entry point 503670. Production team, punch that number on the screen or on the chat for people. Those who want to join us, those who want to call us, we are available on +254-795-638-145. Nairobi. You will be heard live till you come to where I am in the general headquarters in London. This is Matsanga Africa Perspective. Let's go. 1884, Bismarck decides to hold, and Europe decided to hold a conference to divide, to cut, to dismember a united continent called Africa. After the Second World War, after the Berlin Conference, several things took place on our continent. Tribes fought against tribes. kingdoms were dismantled. Some kingdoms were put together forcefully. If you look at the case of Nigeria, for example, the Fulani were put together with the Igbo. In Ghana, the Ashanti were put together with other tribes, other kingdoms. Our kingdoms, the previous kingdom, the founding kingdoms, the kingdom of Benin, the kingdom of Oyo, all these collapsed. Africa started crumbling. The scramble for Africa, therefore, brought about several facets that we are going to see today. We are going to look at these facets. At that time, the colonial master wanted gold, diamonds, cotton, steel, copper, and so many things that were needed in the metals of Europe. At that time also, slaves had been carried across the Atlantic to America. At that time also, Hitler in Europe was beginning to test the waters of the First World War that took place between 1914 and 1918. At that time also, several things had changed. Several things had occurred. Africa was not the same. David Livingstone, Stanley Lugard, and others, Kraft, Abadeas, all this had all come over the sea to come and look adventurously for an Africa, to come and see which Africa they were coming to. That background alone gives you why today this continent is still a continent blackmailed. Is Africa being blackmailed today? If you took our slaves, if you took our cotton, our copper, our diamonds, the beers of the gold, the diamonds of Botswana, South Africa, the diamonds of Shinyanga in Tanzania, the copper belts of Kapweepwe in Zambia, in Kitwe, the copper belts of Kasese in Uganda, the cotton fields of Al-Mahdi regime in Sudan, the thousands and the thousands of tons of ivory cut from the forests of Garamba Bank and other forests that are taken to Europe and other parts of the world. Yes, we had been colonized. Yes, these goods were taken from us. We thought that was enough, is what they wanted. Our first country, Ghana, secured its independence. Ghana again secured a military coup after a few years. Ghana remains one of the countries that got independence 66 years ago. But when you look at Africa today, why is it blackmailed? Have we been blackmailed? Why have we been blackmailed? I want my panel to understand that blackmail comes in so many forms. Blackmail today comes in adversary notes issued by America telling its citizens not to come to see any animal of Mara because they have a coronavirus hitting hard in America. America has not stopped Chinese airlines landing in New York. Yet America accused, Trump accused China for manufacturing the coronavirus COVID-19. Why hasn't China been summoned to the United Nations Security Council on the table to ask them how, when, how did they heal their people? Why is it that there's no big number of people dying in China, in Wuhan, but we have a huge number of people dying in Africa? Are we being blackmailed? Is Africa being blackmailed? The answer is yes. My panel might have different views, but your views might not be very far from mine, because surely there are certain things where we are being blamed for what we have not done. Let's look at one tenet of blackmail: the bilateral trade. Trump and Kenya signed a business bilateral trade between the United States of America and Kenya. The Joe Biden administration plans to review this foreign trade and refocus it on America's economic recovery first. Free trade negotiations with Kenya are now going to be on the rocks, maybe in total dissent. 2, United States of America Trade Representative Catherine Tai has informed the Minister of Industrialization, Trade and Enterprise Development, Betty Maina, of the United States government plans to review trade negotiations started by Mr. Donald Trump in order to align them with President Joe Biden's goals. Whether this will work or not remains the center, the pinnacle, the fulcrum of whether we are blackmailed, whether we should succumb to certain things in order our trade is not cancelled. By crafting a trade policy around its domestic, build back a better agenda, the Joe Biden's administration seeks to put trade at the center of the American economic recovery after the ravages of COVID-19. I hope there are people in Kenya who have taken these positions as ministers, but some of them don't think beyond the reasoning capacity that Dr. Joseph Nyachama would condemn as a teacher, to say some people don't reason beyond. In short, they are saying they are going to attach conditions to the trade that we had with America. How do we know? Maybe they will even be telling us that we should work without shirts if we were to have a trade going on between the United States and America and Kenya. They will be telling us to take off our trousers and walk with our panties in the streets of Kampala, in the streets of Harare, in the streets of Mozambique, in the streets of Tanzania, telling us to walk naked in order to have trade going on peaceful. Are we blackmailed? This inward looking around its domestic is similar to the policy of Trump saying America first. The rest, we don't know. I warned my friends that the regime in Washington don't change. The forests remain the same. Only the monkeys change a bit of colors. And some grow some beard. And some grow some tails. Some cut off one tail. You know you can cut the tail of a monkey. And it means it will not actually fly. I don't know whether you people know that it is the tail that makes the monkey swing from one tree to the other. It is not the weight, it is the tail. So if you want to kill a monkey, you cut off the tail. It will beg you to say, my friend, you have now finished my work. I can't eat, I will be eaten here, or I will rot from here. The African Free Continental Trade Area is called FCFTA. By majority of nations is fast going out. We don't have any more hope that the Joe Biden's administration will bring back this trade. Kenya was hoping to secure a trade agreement with United States, considering African Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA, that defines the United States trade with sub-Saharan Africa to set and expire in 2026. We have been blackmailed. We might not have this trade at all. In totality, United States of America total two-way goods trade with Sub-Saharan Africa ranges from $33 billion last year. During the year, United States goods exports in the region were 13.6 billion, down by 14% of 2019, while imports were 19.2 billion, down by 80.6% from 2019. If you look at that, is this a balanced or blackmailed trade? Do we have partners or we are mediocres? Are we second-grade traders or we are equal partners? What is it that we must trade with us on equal terms? What is it that we can do on the continent of Africa that we can bring about a progressive index that shows Africa gains from this trade? Before I leave the panel to you, I would like to hand over and touch one or two things. One of the things I would touch are adversary notes. Travel adversaries. Don't go to Kenya. Don't go to Kenya unless it is necessary. We have never told our Africans, don't go to America unless it is necessary. But they tell their nationals, don't try to go to Kenya unless it is necessary. Why? COVID is everywhere, planted in every corner of the roads, of the streets of Nairobi. I want to leave my panel with one question. Between America and Kenya, which country should accuse the other of not handling COVID-19 properly. I therefore submit that indeed our continent is imbalanced, is blackmailed. We are being held hostages. We are hostages of the trade imbalances. We are hostages of balance of payments. We are hostages of debt accrued because we can't access finances in international agencies on the equal terms like United States would like to access the funds. Kenya is put under conditions, microscopic conditions on how to obtain a loan. We are told we must put all our airlines on a list, aircraft, count them, see how seats are occupied on a very daily basis. Then we must be able to access the loans. Is this world just? Is this world equal? Is this world the same as God would have liked to see it be? I therefore submit to the panel that those are the points and the many others that you will bring. Thank you very much. But before we go, we start the topic. I would like production team to play one clip. Production in Nairobi, play one clip to show the world that there is something very strange. What has made Africa look like the Africa that used to be in 1884? Play it if you are ready, sir.
The African soul and conscience is trapped in the religion and this spirituality it has been given under the Christian banner and Islam banner, whereby the African child has become twice a slave to the master who governs him and to the religion that manages his conscience. I want to say it publicly, the only reason we are still here and the only reason the colonizer is still here, because the Bible says thou shalt not kill. That's why they're still here. If we did not have the Bible that says thou shalt not kill, tell me what would have done with the colonizers up to this very day. I'm not lying. You can come and lock me up and call this hate speech. We would have flushed them out and thrown them out in the Indian Ocean and sent them back where they came from. But because of religion and because of Christianity, and you white people, you better all of you become Christians. You better become Christians. It's embarrassing that now blacks have become more Christian than white people themselves. Because the only thing that is keeping you on Africa, living with people that you are oppressing, is the religion that you gave them. And I'm speaking on behalf of, I'm a minister of the gospel, fully trained. Our business is to manage the consciences of the community to make sure that they don't fight and revolt against the system. Yes, that's what we do. We teach the people how to dress, how to treat Mlungu, how to look for jobs, and how to become yes boss, yes boss, yes boss, and how to work together. And at the end of the day, the system we have been given is not there for the liberation of the African people. I challenge the political systems, challenge EFF, challenge ZANU-PF, I challenge ANC, I challenge all the political parties, wherever you are. When you win, when you lose, go to other countries and study and see how they have nationalized their resources so that those resources can benefit the local people. I can't believe Zimbabwe, my own country, has 87 rare minerals that are being looked and sought for in the whole world. And yet the country to date does not have its own currency. Does not have its own currency. What's your problem? The mines are in your hands. The taxes are in your hands. Can't you just take tax money and dig the damn diamonds, dig the damn platinum and sell it? Build roads and hospitals for the people? How complicated can that be? How complicated can that be? Can you please send this video to Elder Mnangagwa himself? How complicated can that be? No, there must be a board, a barrow, there must be a committee, there must be what? A board that will process things, and before the money even comes there, all the hungry political leaders are in the pot, harvesting and stealing the same money from the same coffers that's supposed to be helping the community. Where do we begin?
Thank you very much, comrades. It might have been so harsh, but at least you picked something. Dr. Joseph Nyachama, the man says, why do we wait to sell the diamonds to other people instead of us selling it and building our schools without talking to them? What do you think about that? Take the floor back.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Matsanga and my fellow panelists. It's my pleasure this evening to discuss this elusive topic. By the way, before I specifically comment on what you posted to me, do you know, by the way, that in 1400, all countries were almost at the same status? As a Christian, you know, Satan started the war in heaven. In heaven. If he could dare to start the war in heaven, what do you expect here on earth? What could you expect, my fellow panelists? In fact, this topic, whether Africa is being, is an understatement. The West has systematically manipulated, destabilized Africa for their own personal interests. My fellow panelists, ask yourselves, it is us, Africa, especially Western African countries, how comes then 1 unit of countries from the West and America is exchanged to 5,000 units of a country in Africa? And we are the one with the gold reserve. How comes? That is the question the leaders need to answer. Dr. Matsanga, you know, as a Christian, allow me, please, to cite one verse, which is Ecclesiastes, chapter 9, verse 14 up to 17. If you read, you will get the context. It says in a few words, the voice of a poor man is not heard, and his words are despised. Africa is being blackmailed and systematically despised because of its economic status. We sometimes pretend that we are independent. There is no political independence without economic independence. And there is no economic independence without mental independence. Going by the clip which you have just played, it is about the shepherds who have been given the responsibility on behalf of the nation to negotiate and whip the potential of citizens of Africa to live into full potential. But what most of them have done, they have conspired with the manipulators, and there is abject poverty in Africa because of that. As much as we may blame the West for blackmailing Africa, why then does Africa itself accept to be blackmailed? It is because we have the weak agents whom we gave power and authority to negotiate on our behalf. If you read Proverbs 22, verse 7, it says, a borrower is a slave to the lender, and the rich shall rule the poor. And they have known that we are poor, and they have systematically manipulated Africa, destabilized nations, launching program, a PR program, courtesy of institutions like Oxfam, USAID, to depict Africa as a dying nation, and there is a flow of mega resources to make them lazy without rebuilding their various nations. My fellow panelists, through you, Dr. Matsanga, the problem in Africa is a wrong diagnosis. Can you imagine, Dr. Matsanga, you are suffering from a flu, and then you are suffering from cancer, and then the doctor diagnoses that you are suffering from a flu. What do you think would happen in the end? You would die. In Africa, it's a wrong diagnosis. If we need any recovery, like a medical recovery, a doctor must have a correct diagnosis to the patient so that the patient recovers. If we need economic recovery, there has to be a correct diagnosis. But unfortunately, friends, there hasn't been any insight, a wrong diagnosis, and we cannot see any recovery. It's as simple as that. Can Africa get the correct doctor to bring up a diagnosis of the disease of economics so that there is an economic recovery? Dr. Matsanga, Africa is absolutely blackmailed. Like where I come from, the hyena may eat the chicken. My grandmother used to tell me, as much as the hyena is blamed, then why was the hen also going astray? Why is Africa become so careless to the extent that then they get blackmailed? Both of them to blame. As much as we blame the West, we must blame Africa. Africa is in this context like the hen, and the West is like the hyena. Why didn't the hen stay at home? If it did, it could have managed the risk. For now, Dr. Matsanga, from those general statements, we will go into specific. If there is time, I'll submit Dr.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Why do we blame the West when we ourselves, the hens, did not stay where we are supposed to stay? The hyena found us roaming aimlessly and started hammering us. Take a country like Nigeria, Douglas Kiremi, with a population of 220 million people. Nigeria would be the beacon of hope for Africa. The leadership in Nigeria, for example, has failed Nigerians. Mr. Buhari might be a ghost president who is never present when there is need for his presence. Look at the leadership in Cameroon. What has happened in Cameroon? A leader rules for 40 years. His people are dying. He's busy buying a wife, a wig for $1 million. The children can't go to school. A hen walking aimlessly. The hyena picks the hen in the forest. Look at Somalia. The hens in Somalia are walking aimlessly. They don't even know where they belong, whether they belong in the Arab North, across Red Sea, or they are Africans with other Africans. Kirimi, was it our problem? Do we lay a lot of eggs and then we started abandon the eggs, and then we were caught by a hyena while roaming to lay more when we had not even hatched the other ones that we had? Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Matsanga. And also, for us, the people of Africa, we need to realize that the world is the way it is today because of Africa. The world is the way it is today because of Africa. Before, many ages ago, they came and our grandfathers and grandmothers and took them as slaves to Americas and other places to go and become slaves and build their agriculture and also build their industries and build their other infrastructure. These people came to Africa, took our raw materials, took them to Europe. What we read as a industrial revolution was not industrial revolution, was the scramble and the partitioning of Africa. They partitioned our own resources and took them to Britain and other countries. Today, even the Queen of England is said to be sleeping on a bed that comes from a tree in Meru. Today, the Queen of England, their breakfast, they take sweet potatoes that comes from Kabondo in Nyanza in Kenya today. Today, these people cannot be able to survive without these people. It is true that the Queen of England today takes sweet potatoes from Kabondo, the very sweet potatoes from Nyanza today in Kenya. Today, this Africa that we continue talking about in Central African Republic, in Banjul, they continue flying Airbus to France with our minerals, with a lot of minerals. Every 2 days, I think it is 2 days or 3 days in a week. Dr. Matsanga will correct me, I'm not a global citizen like he is, but there are 2 Airbus that leave Banjul in Central African Republic, go to Western countries and take our resources there. In Central Africa, in the Republic of Congo, in the Democratic Republic of Congo, in the middle of forest, they have a lot of airports where they continue stealing the wealth of Africa. They continue taking the copper, they continue taking the gold and taking it to Western countries, continue defranchising the people of Africa economically. But when Corona comes, that does not come from Africa, you release our countries, you release Africa, you release the Republic of Kenya after defranchising us and taking the resources from Africa. You continue using proxies like Farmajo. In Somalia today, they have the best coastline in Africa. They can invest in tourism and be able to make a lot of money to sustain their country. But today, Mohamed Farmajo has signed a contract with imperialists, with the people from the West, to continue being a stooge of the West. I'm a resident of Minnesota, a citizen of America, rules Somalia with an iron fist as a stooge of the Western resource greedy allies who continue defranchising the people of Africa instead of taking the people of Africa forward and also making sure that they integrate together and grow together. These people petitioned us in 1980s and made sure that we are petitioned such a way that we have been put with the borders. Even with these borders, they continue stealing minerals in Africa. They continue mining here in Africa. There is nothing that the people of Africa have done to be able to accommodate the kind of aid and also blackmail that we experience from these resource-greedy Western allies that keep calling us brothers and sisters when it suits them. These imperialist people who continue defranchising and destroying the people of Africa economically, the only when it suits them, they can come and cross deal and call them bilateral talks. But these, in essence, are acts that they have been able to perfect from their grandfathers who enslaved the people of Africa, who partitioned Africa. They continue stealing from us. The people of America should be ashamed of themselves today. America has been built by the blood and sweat of the slave people from Africa. Today, Britain, as we know it today, everything they have today, the wealth that Britain has today comes from the people of Africa, comes from the people of Kenya. But when Corona comes, even with the new variants from Britain, they continue releasing the people of Africa. Why blackmail the people of Africa when it is convenient for you to do so? When the people of Africa, like Dr. Matsanga asked, What have we done as the people of Africa to continue experiencing the kind of blackmail that we continue experiencing? For example, the people of Kenya have done nothing to God. They have not been able to sacrifice anything to God to give them resources in Indian Ocean. But the Western resource greedy allies want to steal our well blocks in Indian Ocean using a stooge in Vira, Somalia, President of Somalia, Mohamed Farmajo. You are a man that is not supposed to be ruling your country. Your mandate expired on 8th of February 2021. You are supposed to have taken your country to elections, but you continue being used to continue stealing resources from Africa. Until when? You continue stealing from the Republic of Kenya when the people of Africa who live in our country have been brothers and sisters with your country for millions of years. You continue stealing from us, taking to people that have always stolen from us. When coronavirus comes to Africa, when other things come to Africa, they release to Kenya. Travel advisories, don't visit Kenya, don't go to Kenya, don't do this to Kenya. Until when these people will continue sitting on the people of Africa, and they are, because we are, they continue misusing and taking us for granted and taking our resources and destroying Africa as we know it. Dr. Matsanga, as I submit my point, these people continue misusing us. The people of Africa continue using our resources. Even today, Dr. Matsanga, you have predicted a war in Indian Ocean that is being fueled by Britain, Norway, Qatar, and other countries that continue stealing from the people of Africa. They stole from our grandfathers. They want to steal my future and the future of my children. These are the same Western resource greedy allies who want to continue defranchising the people of Africa when it is convenient. Enough is enough. A time has come for the people of Africa to stand up for themselves and stand for their rights and be able to pursue a way that is better for Africa, a way that is better for Africa. But until then, we need to be able to deal with the people like Paul Biya, who continue seeking treatment and living in Western countries and Western capitals. Today, the president of Nigeria lives in Abuja House in London. Today, he cannot step into Nigeria because healthcare has been run down. The man continues kissing and also touching the feet of the imperialists and living in Abuja, living in good hospitals in London. He cannot stay in Nigeria. Nigeria is under fire today. Nigeria is on fire today. People are dying in Nigeria. Healthcare is a going concern today to the people of Nigeria. To Mohamed Buhari, it is no longer going concern. To the people of the Congo, people like Denis Nguesso Sosu has been in power for so many years, being used as a stooge to continue defranchising Africa. The people of Chad continue suffering under Idriss Deby. Until when, Africa? Until when these people will continue using us? They have used us before, they have used us continuously, and they continue using us even in the middle of a pandemic. Dr. Matsanga, these people have black-christened our countries. They have black-christened us when we know very well this coronavirus did not come from Africa. We did not manufacture coronavirus. It came like the way it went to their countries. As I submit my point to Dr. Matsanga, it is about time the people of Africa decide on the way that they shall go. And the way they shall go is not to agree and deal with the imperialists. It's about time they sit down and be able to draw the right line on the soil, Dr. Matsanga. Thank you.
Drawing the red line in the sand. Enough is enough. Africa, did we fall victims? Sean Wesonga. Nigeria is a state, a pariah state, more or less. What do? Have we been bewitched? Are we blackmailed? Who in Nigeria has taken over the minerals, Total Oil and the Shell BP? The fight in Africa is those two companies. Who is causing the war in Mozambique? It's Shell BP and Total Oil. They have now gone to northern Mozambique, in Pemba, in Pama, in southern Tanzania. There is a proxy war going on there by oil companies. Sean.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Matsanga.
Are we blackmailed or we blackmailed ourselves?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Matsanga, and I'll answer that question in twofold. First and foremost, we have to understand that the colonialists, when they are leaving Africa, They never left our continent in good faith. You remember at one point, King Leopold II declared Congo as his own personal property. When the French were leaving Guinea under Ahmed Sékou Touré as the inaugural first African president, they left with everything, including the light bulbs that are in the office, the pens, the books, and everything. So these were people who left on a very bad note from Africa. And therefore, to allow their continued insubordination and exploitation of our resources, they left some things that could actually make sure that we remained under their influences. And that was the education system. Today, we have not been able as a continent to come up with an education system that really integrates our values, that really integrates our own setting, an education that could enrich our students to be able to exploit whatever resources that we have in Africa. Number two, the colonialists are left with us a system of governance which is quite untenable in our society. Democracy. When you look at the African way of governance, we used to have kingdoms, we used to have chiefdoms, we used to have fiefdoms. But with the colonialist notion of democracy, we have been left with a system which has been disintegrating with time. People have been fighting because of divisive elections. And I can tell you for a fact, Dr. Matsanga, amid all these chaos, amid all these strifes, amid all these fightings that are happening in Africa, there is always a multinational from the West, a multinational from USA, which is busy siphoning away the resources from the people of Africa. And therefore, I'll move to my second part of answering my question. Is I'll say, Dr. Matsanga, authoritatively, that as a people, we have allowed these colonial masters to continue imposing their egocentrism upon us as a people, and really to control on how we govern ourselves and how we exploit our resources, because some leaders who have been complacent to the influence of the West, leaders who have been working hand in hand with the Western powers in order to exploit the resources of Africa. When you look at a classical case of Congo, when we had Comrade Patrice Lumumba, it took the CIA to come through General Mobutu Sese Seko to really kill the dream that Patrice Lumumba had for Congo. When you look at Burkina Faso, Kampore going against his comrade Sankara. So to me, Dr. Matsanga, as a people, we have been disfranchised, but more still, our leaders have allowed themselves to be used as puppets and also profiteers of these plunder and theft that is happening in Africa. And it is because of our resources that Africa has known no peace. We are having fightings in Darfur, we are having fightings in Katanga, we are having fightings in Chad, we are having fightings in Cabo Delgado today. And therefore, as African people, we need to raise above the neocolonialism that we are having today. We need to chart our own future. We need to come together as a people united. We need to bring on board our own system of education, so that when we go to the negotiation table, we tell the imperialists, we tell the Americans that we need to have a talk on how you're going to do trade with us, not having a talk on how these companies are coming to exploit the resources in Africa without much benefiting the people of Africa. So therefore, my call to the people of Africa, Dr. Matsanga, as I conclude, is that we need to raise up, we need to actually talk about our own future. We should not leave our future in the hands of the Western powers. I submit.
Thank you very much. Part of the problems have been ourselves. Tawish Olesesana, we allow ourselves to be blackmailed? Have we allowed Africa to be blackmailed? Why don't we refuse? Why don't we stand up and say enough is enough? That's what Wesonga is saying. That is what Douglas was saying. Samuel,
thank you. Very well. Thank you so much, Dr. Matsanga, and the rest of the my fellow panelists, and everyone actually who is watching us on Punchline Africa TV this evening, rather this tonight. Dr. Matsanga, I want to submit that we will continue to be hostages, we will continue to be prisoners of the Western power country as long as we continue to praise them, as long as we continue to give them the opportunity to do so. You remember the immediate former president of US, that is Donald Trump, did say at one point that Africa is a shithole country or a shithole continent, to be particular. He said this because sometimes there are things that we do as Africans ourselves that we ask, what is the problem with the African people? For example, you will be surprised why the people of Biafra today are asking for freedom and President Buhari is not listening to them. You'll ask yourself why President Paul Biya of Cameroon cannot listen to the people of Amazonia or Southern Cameroon, if you like. You'll ask yourself, why do we have an ending war in the Central African Republic today, Dr. Matsanga? You'll ask yourself, why do we continue to see bloodshed and butchering of humanity or humans, Dr. Matsanga, in, for example, Libya today? Dr. Matsanga, you'll ask yourself, why is it with all the natural resources, the world that God has given us, our people are still sleeping hungry? When the West looks at us, they look at us as a people and a continent with a potential, but they know we cannot do it because of our absolute over-reliance on the Western power countries for them to continually fund us and hold us hostage, to continually hold us as prisoners to them, Dr. Matsanga. And I think that is where the problem begins. Then the question is, what is it we can do so that we can alleviate ourselves from this kind of imprisonment, so that we can alleviate ourselves from this kind of bondage that we continue to put ourselves in? Dr. Nyanchama did put it very correctly, Dr. Matsanga, when he spoke, when he gave an analogy of a chicken that goes out roaming and the hyena comes and picks it. Did the West come for us, or are we the ones who are going to beg from them? That's the question that we should be asking ourselves. It is time we begin being honest with ourselves in approaching matters that how are we going to change our continent? How are we going to change our individual countries? There are people who have lived with a vision and the hope, the courage, the boldness to want to bring change in this continent. Let me give an example of the just late president of Tanzania, John Pombe Magufuli. This is a man who has lived or given an exemplary kind of leadership, one that can be emulated by the rest of the African leaders, Dr. Matsanga, today. Another one is the fallen hero of Africa, that is the former president of Libya. I'm talking about Muammar Gaddafi. This is a man who had a vision for Africa to have one single currency. This is a man who had a vision for Africa not to lack in terms of food. This is a man who wanted Africa to trade freely with the partners of Africa. But where are they? Do we have leaders who can rise to the occasion and try to live to that legacy? Those who can try and emulate? Why is it that we can emulate? Why is it that we cannot emulate the best examples of leaders that we have had? Because that is one of the challenges we are having. Today, the West is laughing at us because much as we are talking about this independence, much as we are talking about having the natural resources, but we still have to run to them to come and help us exploit the same natural resources, and not to the benefit of our very own people, but to the benefit of the Western power countries. They come and give us crumbs. They come and give us leftovers, and we cheer them. We say all is okay. Dr. Matsanga, today, for example, if I'm to give an example of China, China is known for a territorial expansionism and autocratic rule, but it is increasing in economic prowess and has added another dimension to its clouds today, Dr. Matsanga, the economic imperialism. Now take, for example, China is financially big enough to first pump its money in small, poor nations and then acquire controlling stakes in organizations as the nations fail to repay, particularly the poor or financially weaker nations, especially drawn from the African continent. So what is it that we can pride as a people of Africa today? Don't we have these natural resources? Don't we have the diamonds? Don't we have copper? Don't we have iron ore? Don't we have all these natural resources? Today, even there's one of the panelists who gave an example that the high-profile or eminent individuals in these Western power countries rely on the food from African continent because one, it is toxic-free. Second, it is sweet. Why? Because we are doing our natural production. They come all the way to Western maybe Kenya to collect the sweet potatoes. You know, when one of the panelists was speaking about the sweet potatoes, I'm actually somebody who has come across these individuals actually going around some of these towns, some of these areas looking for these sweet potatoes. Ken Sport 5, Kabonde, Dr. Matsanga, if you didn't know about these varieties, they're seriously looking for these varieties to take them to Western power countries so that those people can have, they can have a bite of what is produced in the African continent, Dr. Matsanga. So we should pride of ourselves and we should come out of our comfort zone and say enough is enough. And say we cannot continue to rely on the big brother. We are able to do it because, again, these people have noticed we are in a position to do it. But whenever we continue to rely on them, they cannot give us an opportunity, Dr. Matsanga, to explore that which God has actually given the African continent freely. These Western power countries, Dr. Matsanga, today, as I sum up, they cannot even understand the fact that there's this pandemic that is so serious that is ravaging the whole world, more so these Western power countries and not the African continent. They are looking at us as mysterious people, or rather as a mysterious continent. Even with the fragile healthcare system that we have, Dr. Matsanga, as a continent, or even as individual countries, they still cannot understand why this virus is not wiping lives as it is doing in the Western power countries. They cannot understand. They are looking at Africa and Africans and wondering what metal are these people made of. And perhaps it's one of the reasons why these people are actually maligning us. It is one of the reasons why these people are manipulating us. This is one of the reasons why these people are blackmailing us, because they feel like we are unique. And it is God who has created the African people that way. We should be proud of ourselves. We should take advantage of that and do that which we can do so that we cannot continually rely on the Western power countries. Dr. Matsanga, if you allow me the latitude, just to sum up on the question of the travel advisories, for example, that have been given against Kenya. Many African countries, and as we understand, Dr. Matsanga, have waged a robust and effective campaign.
It is coming.
Yes.
It is coming. You will begin from there. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Matsanga.
Let's take a commercial break and show something from the Africa School of Thought. Production in Nairobi.
Viewers, those listening to this tape or this video, I want to bring to your attention that the politics of proxy wars in Africa is becoming real, and it has become a reality. I want to bring to this the attention of the African states that time and time again we have fallen victims of proxy wars. We fight wars that are not ours. We fall in conflicts that are not supposed to be, don't help Africa, and they don't help our countries at all. The proxy war that is in East and Central and the Horn of Africa has been ignited, supported, equipped by France. It has been very real that the French government, quietly through its company called Total Oil, has been searching for resources around the triangle of East and Central Africa and Great Lakes region and the Horn of Africa. The LAPSET was one of them, which could have been a landmark project for the people of France. They withdrew from it. The Tanga to Mwanza, they made it, they withdrew from it. The search for oil and resources through Total Oil has brought us the dangers of a proxy war in the region. It is therefore very prudent for people of the region to understand the dynamics that we are going through. For example, in Rwanda and the Burundi conflict, there is a proxy war. We are fighting a proxy country has brought us to a war between the two countries, between Uganda and Rwanda and Burundi. There is a proxy war in Congo who is sponsoring a resurgence of rebels that are fighting President Tshisekedi because he was not supported by countries that we know very well. This type of strategy has happened in North Africa, where Libya has been reduced to rebels, where each faction, even in the the government supported by United Nations is being bombarded by a rebel called Khalifa Haftar, who is funded by countries that we know. The question of Somalia and the Kenyan maritime presents a challenge, a test case for Africa and East Africa to stand firm and denounce the actions of countries that bring proxy wars and proxy politics in our region. It is therefore my humble submission that for this conflict, for this to end, we must do enough publicity, advocacy around the area to tell and explain to the international community why this problem is going to create an imbalance in the peace in the region, and the regional peace will be affected. It is therefore my humble submission that as a Ugandan whose troops, brothers and sisters, mothers and fathers of other many millions Ugandans who are in Somalia, condemn any action by the Somali government to try to resolve issues that should have been resolved amicably as Africans within the African confines. I submit, therefore, that some of us will go a mile further to do now, from now onwards, to expose, to show the challenges of these countries that make us fight a proxy war in Africa. Thank you very much for listening. God bless you.
Thank you very much, viewers and the panel. You have seen for yourself from that clip that we fight wars that are not ours. We drag ourselves into wars, but the wars are not fought in Europe, they are fought on our continent. Are we blackmailed? Before we went off to break, we had touched a topic of flights to UK Council. I would allow Dr. Joseph Nyanchama 2 minutes to sum up, and Tawish be prepared to come out later on with what you had on the flights.
Thank you, Dr. Matsanga, for that. First of all, once I wanted to ask these so-called our lawyers who are moving from court to court on petty petitions, I want to challenge them tonight. There is a provision in international law which says, if you tame a fierce dog in your compound, if it escapes to go and cause harm in the neighborhood, or the injuries the dog causes, you shall take responsibility. Did COVID-19 emanate from China? And China let it escape. Can't the lawyers now explore the possibility for legal action against China for its reluctance, instead of focusing on petty national issues which are undermining because of political interest? What I must say is this. I hear America is also attempting, or it has already put sanctions against Kenya to travel. America's over 4 million infected. Who's supposed to act? Is it Kenya or America? These people, Dr. Matsanga, they are very manipulative. There is one man, if you allow me, sir, I respect Dr. Mahathir Mohamad. He stood firm when he was complaining because people from West wanted to destroy the stock market with the manipulations. They used the media to criticize Dr. Mahathir, but he stood strong. He defended countries like Indonesia, Thailand, Philippines, and Malaysia itself. And they said he cannot as a leader. watch the West destroy the financial markets. It is when it spread to Hong Kong and the Wall Street is when he was vindicated. That is to tell you, my fellow panelists, Dr. Matsanga, that these people, when their interests are catered for, they don't care who is destroyed. I want to urge my fellow Africans, please, can you wake up? I submit.
Thank you very much. Can you wake up, Douglas Kirimi? Can you wake up?
Thank you, Dr. Matsanga.
Are we, or we took ourselves as a willing buyer, willing seller? Did we take ourselves there?
Thank you, Dr. Matsanga.
Doctor has raised a very important point. I think you heard it. He says, between America and the United and the Kenya, who should blacklist the other? Where 4 million have died or 2,000 have died? Are we blackmailed? Go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Matsanga. And we need to ask ourselves a question that has related from what you have raised, that we fight from the Africa School of Thought, that we fight wars that do not belong to us. Today, as of June 2020, last year, over 29 million Africans were displaced in their own land, in their own houses, in their own countries. Over 29 million Africans have been able to be effectively evicted and also sent away from their own land, from their own countries, and also be sent away to be refugees or asylum seekers in other cities in the world and other countries in the world. Are we going to continue fighting the imperialist war such that we are made to be refugees in our own land? Today, the people of Somalia that I keep talking and fighting for, but they don't see that, they see that I fight Falmajo. Over 400,000 of them continue living in Kenya today in Kakuma and Dadaab camps, refugee camps. These people are supposed to be opening the best hotels in the best coastline in Africa that belongs to Somalia. But Somalia has gone to the dogs. The man that is at Vira Somalia today, His Excellency Mohamed Abdullahi Falmajo, is a stooge of the West. He's a citizen of America. He doesn't care about America. He doesn't care about Somalia. He is a man that is out to destroy Somalia. The people of Africa in countries that are engulfed in wars, in war, in civil war and all that. It is about the minerals that the West wants to take from Africa. Our great-grandfathers were taken as slaves to America, the ones that were left, sold off, or maybe gave up, or they didn't know they gave up our resources, but also the people that are today in the Democratic Republic of Congo, in the Congo of Gueso, in Cameroon, in Central African Republic, in Sudan, in Uganda, in Kenya. Today, we continue having refugees in most of these countries. Some run to Kenya and other countries because our people continue aiding these foreign greedy resource allies to continue defranchising the people of Africa. Africa continues being a scramble, a partitioning ground where they continue stealing from us. Until when? Enough of the prayers, the people of Africa. It is about we take action. Dr. Matsanga, it's about time we take action. The people of Africa continue being refugees in their own countries because they continue fighting reckless wars of Western resource greedy allies. Today, if Kenya, God forbid, and Somalia went to war in Indian Ocean because there is a Cold War going on between the people of Kenya and Somalia. If Kenya and Somalia went to war today, we shall be the casualties, but beneficiaries will be Norway, Qatari, Turkey, and other European robbers who want to continue robbing Africa of its God-given resources. The question remains tonight, Will the people of Africa continue playing ball to the Western resource-greedy allies who continue defranchising and displacing the people of Africa? Over 29 million. Today, my estimate ranges between 32 million Africans continue being refugees and also be displaced from their land. For people to be able to dig our gold, our copper, our timber, our sweet potatoes. People continue feeding on our sweet potatoes but keep resisting us. People continue sleeping in the best beds that have been built using our own timber in our own forest in Africa. But they continue resisting the people of Africa. Dr. Matsanga, to answer your question, we are blackmailed. The people of Africa did not invite these people. They came in the name of the Bible while they preached Jesus Christ of Nazareth. They were stealing our land. These people came to Africa and they have continued staying here. Their continuous stay in Africa, Dr. Matsanga, is a scourge in our body. It is a wound that does not heal in our body. Dr. Matsanga, as I conclude on my point, the people of Africa are being blackmailed by these Western resource-greedy allies who continue eating us, even as we are failing on our deathbed. Today, they are not even giving us anything for free. We are suffering and also suffering because we are friends with these people who have eaten the resources of Africa. The people of Africa being malnourished and also being misused by these people, Dr. Matsanga. Thank you. I submit.
Thank you very much. Before I come to Douglas, Shoni Wesonga, and Olisana studio, let's listen to a lady here. There is a lady here who wants to talk to us.
IMF, World Bank, all other institutions, they make African countries jump through hoops. Loans will never be able to pay. The US, when they borrow money, they're getting it in 1.5, 1.9 interest rate. Africans, when they get the same amount of money, they're paying 9, 10%. The people who don't need a break, they get a break. The ones who need a break, they don't get a break. The sheer survival of the World Bank, IMF, is based on the fact that African countries and many other developing countries do not succeed. Their success is based on our failure. That has to change. And guess who can make that change? We, the children of Africa, we, the Africans, are the ones who have to say, we know your game now. Enough is enough. We're not playing it anymore. And this is where the diaspora come in. There are more Ghanaian doctors in New York City than in the entire country of Ghana. There are more Nigerian doctors in LA than in the entire country of Nigeria. So let's be serious here. What Africa needs is capacity, capacity, capacity. And that capacity is in the diaspora. So it behooves us to bring the diaspora together. Let them understand what is really going on in our Africa. Diaspora are not going home. Diaspora are angry about Africa because they are not understanding the root cause of why Africa is where it is today. They think getting rid of a president will take care of the problem. Far from it. That president is just going to be replaced by another one who is going to equally suffer from the same difficult environment to work in. So let's look at an Africa that must be free to take care of herself, an Africa that's free from exploitation from outsiders. The multinationals who are stealing from Africa every day in broad daylight. I use an example of the DRC. If you ever fly very low over the DRC, you'll see tarmacs in the jungle. You'll see 747s flying into DRC, picking up minerals and flying right out. The same multinationals are responsible for arming young people and giving them MK-16s. Because why? Their satellites in the skies are telling them where that village is. There are lots of diamonds. So what do? Arm young people, drag them up, and send them to go chop off a few heads. The rest of the village runs away, so they come behind and do their illegal mining. We black people must understand what is really going on. Because what we are shown instead is, oh, look at those Africans killing each other. There are some serious games that have been played in Africa for far too long. And once we understand that, we can strategize as to how we can begin to bring the difference and bring the change that Africa needs. And that change can only come if the African diaspora are united. And the Wakanda villages, as I call them, it is our organized way of saying, starting with one African diaspora center of excellence, it will be a new city, a developmental hub that we can then take from there. Every sector is developed. Take healthcare. How many doctors do we need in this region to take care of this many people? We pick up education, same thing. We pick up engineering. We pick up electricity. How many megawatts of power do we have in the region? How many do we need? Be it solar, be it wind, be it hydro, be it geothermal, be it nuclear.
Oh, thank you very much, Dr. Erikana, the former AU ambassador to the United Nations in New York, the African, sorry, to America, AU ambassador to America. Thank you very much. She talked serious points there. The points that the two of you, all of us here have touched. The DRC Congo, the diaspora, there are no doctors in Africa, but we are equipping the hospitals of the West. Shoni Wesonga, now you have seen the background. We give you, you have got the background of Dr. Erikana. In 2
Yes,
in 2 minutes.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Yes, thank you, Dr. Matsanga. And one thing I should really encourage African people and African states to do is to borrow a leaf from what the Chinese did. You remember a century ago when China was under the British colonial power, China was in the same state, the same quagmire that we are in. Yes, the same quagmire that we are in as a continent. And when the Chinese realized that actually we could do away with these people, we have numbers, we have the resources, we can chart our own future. Look at today where China is, a very vibrant economy, a giant a superpower that is actually becoming a threat to the USA. So Africa, having the resource that we have, having the population that we have, having the kind of climate that we have, actually there is no limit on how much we can be able to grow and chart our future and be able to delineate ourselves from the influence of the West. So therefore, we have to do some kind of overhaul. We have to do go back to the drawing board and chart a way of having our own system of government. We need to have our own system of education the way the Chinese people are doing, so that when we go to the negotiation table, we are able to bargain on equal time. I will say, Dr. Matsanga, that it is far too long. We have talked about liberating ourselves. It is now time we need to walk the talk, Dr. Matsanga. I submit.
Thank you very much. We need to talk, to walk the talk, and talk the walk. Thank you very much. Samuel, Sisana Tawish. Dr. Erikana pointed out quite a number of issues brought out why Africa is blackmailed or blackmailed itself. What do you say?
Well, thank you once more, Dr. Ari, for that. And I think she's put it quite very well. You ask yourself, why do we have the fighting that does not end in the Capedo Triangle today? Then the question is, there's actually oil in Turkana. You ask yourself why you're having people in Transmara, that is in Narok County, actually fighting at the far end of Lolgorian. Then there's actually gold in Lolgorian of Narok County. You talk about all these wars that are happening, Dr. Matsanga, in our counties, in our countries, in our continent, then it points to what exactly that particular lady was speaking about, that the reason why we are having these wars, and ending wars to be particular, is because of the prospects of these natural resources. It's because of this wealth. They will not allow us to have peace, because again, when we have peace, we will have that focus. And when we have focus, we'll be able to use these resources for the benefit of our people, and we will not be depending on them. Because again, when we become the independent, Dr. Matsanga, it becomes difficult for them to micromanage us. It is in their desire that we continue to be dependent on the Western power countries for them to continue micromanaging us, Dr. Matsanga. But that said and done, Dr. Matsanga, the question we should be asking ourselves then, that lady did put it right, that it is you and me who are supposed to change the trajectory in Africa. It is you and me who are supposed to change the narrative in Africa. Why is it that we are sleeping hungry? Why is it that we cannot exploit our very own resources? Is it that because we do not have enough manpower? Is it that because we do not have actually the expertise? Why are we even going to school in the first place if we cannot be able to exploit our own oil, if we cannot be able to exploit our own diamonds and copper in the African soil, Dr. Matsanga? So in that we have to call for these Western power countries to come and help us do this. But again, they're not just helping us, but again, they're causing more injury to the African people. That is why you see that today we continue to wail in poverty every other day, yet we have so much. They say that Africa is so rich, yet her people are so poor. What an irony, Dr. Matsanga. So moving forward, what is it that we can do? I think we have to stop that over-reliance on the Western power generosity because of these rich nations who think that because of what they are doing for African countries, they can continually exploit us. Dr. Matsanga, I also wanted to register the point about the travel advisories that were issued actually against Kenya. I remember I was submitting that point just before you interjected. I want to submit, Dr. Matsanga, that African countries, most of them have actually waged a very serious, robust, and effective campaign to combat the spread of coronavirus, despite what I will say a reputation of having fragile healthcare system in the continent of Africa. But again, because again, right from the beginning, most African countries really took drastic measures to try and slow the spread of the virus. So it beats logic that today UK can issue travel advisories against some of the African countries, and to be specific, Kenya for that matter, a country that is doing so much, even stretching beyond its own ability to see into it, how they can actually contain and wipe out this virus, which did not originate in Kenya or Africa in the first place. So I think it is a slap on the face of African countries. It's a slap on the African people who are actually battling a mysterious pandemic that they did not actually, they did not concoct themselves. When you have a country or a nation or a continent that are supposed to be supporting these young countries in fighting this pandemic, yet they continue to continually pour cold water on every other effort you are putting into place, Dr. Matsanga. I want to submit, Dr. Matsanga, that Africa is rich. This continent is endowed with so many natural resources that which we can exploit as a people, as a continent, and for the benefit of our people. If you're wondering what was said in the Bible as being the Garden of Eden, I think Africa is the Garden of Eden, flowing with sweet honey, Dr. Matsanga. It's only in the African continent that these people from the Western power countries run to. They come and want to enjoy even the climate, a very nice climate in the African continent. They want to enjoy the food products from the African continent. They even want to enjoy the good people of the African continent, Dr. Matsanga. What does it tell you about the African people and African continent? We are a continent and a people of great potential if only we can realize that and do it for the greater benefit of our people, Dr. Matsanga. And I want to submit that it is time we wake up from slumber and realize that God did not give us this opportunity. God did not give us these natural resources for people to come and exploit us, but for the good of our generations, Dr. Matsanga. So it is time for the African people to rise up to the occasion and see how we can do away with this kind of Western imperialism that is continually exploiting us for their own good. Dr. Matsanga, I submit.
Thank you very much, Tawish. Thank you very much. I want to give Dr. Joseph Nyachama a parting shot. A parting shot of a minute or so.
Thank you, Dr. First of all, I hold a seed in my hand. It is a fact, this is a seed, but it's the truth, this is a tree. Until Africans realize that until they find the truth, they will continue to serve. Allow me to finish, Dr. Matsanga and my fellow panelists, to what I read from an anonymous person. Now I'm focusing on the individual citizens of Africa. The anonymous piece went like this. When I was young, my imagination had no limits. I dreamed of changing the world. When I grew old and wiser, but the world could not change. So I decided only to change my country, but it was immovable. As I grew into my twilight years, on one desperate last attempt, I settled on only changing my family, those closest to me, but none of them could hear of it. As I laid on my deathbed, I realized that if I had changed myself first, by example, I could have changed my family. And my family, through inspiration and enthusiasm, they could have changed the community. And the community could have changed other communities. The other communities now could have changed the country. And if the country could have changed, then the world could have changed. What do I mean, Dr. Matsanga? The destiny of Africa is in our hands. If we change ourselves first, following the analogy or a piece I've given, Africa will change. And when Africa changes, we will be independent and then guarantee our generation a fruitful future. I end by what the Indian proverb say, which was expounded by Mahatma Gandhi. It says that we have not inherited this nation from our ancestors. We have borrowed from our children. We must pay it back with interest. Are African leaders listening? You must pay it back to the generation of the responsibility you have been given with interest. The responsibility is in your hands. Can you save Africa? You agents, the leaders, and the citizens of Africa, can you take individual responsibility from the peace of justice? I submit.
Thank you very much. I don't know whether anybody else has a parting shot. Douglas, do you have any parting shot? Half a minute?
Dr. Matsanga, thank you. The people of Africa, it's about time we show these people who we are. Africa is because the world is because of Africa today. America was built by the sweat and the blood of the slaves from Africa. Britain was built by the raw materials from Africa. And these people continue defranchising us and taking advantage of us. And even as the spirit and the lion of Africa, Dr. Matsanga himself, a true Pan-Africanist, a true son of soul, continues roaring across Africa and calling people, and his clarion call is that they stand up for Africa and speak for Africa. More Africans should come out and speak for Africa. As the spirit of Africa and the lion of Africa, Dr. Matsanga speaks for Africa. You need to be able to lend your voice. You need to lend your resources. You need to lend your own expertise in the liberation of Africa. The last liberation of Africa will not be using arms and everything that they have used before to conquer Africa. It will be used when you speak out, send out your voice so that we can cross these people and send them where they are. Thank you, Dr. Matsanga.
Thank you very much. Wesonga, your parting shot.
Yes, Dr. Matsanga, to me, I'll just like to tell Africans and African leaders all over that history does not occur to the robe of an emperor twice. So there's no much time to waste. Time is now. If you want to talk about elevating Africa, if you want to talk about growing and liberating Africa, then we have to dive into action now and be able to start talking about charting our own future and empowering our very own continent. I submit.
Thank you very much. Olosesana Tawish.
Very well, thank you so much, Dr. Matsanga. I just want to end by one philosophical say that goes, failure is nature's plan to prepare one for the greatest responsibility. It is my hope and submission, Dr. Matsanga, that the African continent, the African people and her leaders can rise to the occasion, look to the failures and see how they can build on that to rectify those failures to become greater, to make a greater benefit and good for the African people, Dr. Matsanga, I submit.
Thank you very much, viewers, all of you, the panel. Thank you very much for your contribution tonight. This has been Matsanga Africa Perspective, a show that brings out Africa, that defends Africa, that talks about what ails Africa, a show that stays in the minds of the people of Africa. The future generation relies on our speech. As Douglas says, let's not be shy. As Dr. Nyachama says, what else can we do? If the tree comes from the seed, can we start planting the seed? I think that is what you meant. Why can't we plant the seed now? Matsanga, it is a lamentation, and a lamentation we shall always continue. But time is coming, it's catching up. Things are changing. Many people are following our discussions. For me, I want to leave you with this quote from the Bible. Jeremiah, verse 1, chapter 1, verse 19. It says, they will fight you, but they will fail. For I am with you, and I will take care of you. I, the Lord, have spoken. Jeremiah chapter 1, verse 19. They can fight you. They can blackmail you. They can call you all the names. They can do anything that they want to do. But the truth stands. God will always be with you. Can we plant many trees on the continent of Africa? Many seeds to grow like a Tawish, like a Nyachama, like a Matsanga, like a Douglas, and the millions of those watching in Anambra, Enugu, Maiduguri, Kano, Port Harcourt, the sufferings of the Nigerians, the Biafran people being killed, maimed, eaten, beaten by a rogue regime of Buhari. God is always watching. You can beat other people, but you are not Julius Caesar, who came, saw, and conquered. Vendi, Vidi, Vicky. Woo! That ends it. Vendi, Vidi, Vicky. Thank you very much, Africa. That is all I have for tonight. If you have any topic, any of you, cross it over to me. We shall bring it here, and dissect. On behalf of Punchline Africa Television, production team, the night team, I thank you very much, our general manager, our satellite brothers in Berlin, I thank you. I thank you. This topic goes to the ministry, dedicated to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Kenya, for them to look, are we being blackmailed or we blackmailed ourselves? Did we walk as chicken with chickenless legs until the hyena caught us? When the tail of a monkey is cut, Tawish knows this very well. The monkey cannot jump from one tree to the other. I don't know whether you know that, but try. Try to catch the monkey. The monkey does not bite, but try to catch the tail of the monkey one day. You will see how it will turn to bite you. Have you tried that with Songa? Joseph Nyachama, have you tried that? Did you know that?
Yeah.
Try,
I didn't know.
You can do anything. You can even call it monkey, look at this monkey. But try to touch the tail of the monkey.
It will be troublesome.
They will all come to scratch you. Because they know you are now disabling one of them. They protect each other. How many of you have found a dead monkey? Have you ever seen a dead monkey? Any of you? I not wish you have found a dead lion.
I've seen. I've even seen a dead monkey at least once. Only once in my lifetime.
Yeah, that's all.
We killed one when we were small boys.
That is all. But you rarely find them dead.
It's not easy. Yeah.
The old ones go back.
They carry it away. By the way, the
Yes.
monkeys themselves carry it away.
Carry it away,
Yeah.
please. So when you touch and cut off their tail, you have created a big problem for them to carry that burden. So they will come for you. In fact, they can do what they call village harambe, and you can find 200 of them crowded around your house. Every door or window they are on you until you call the KWF. Thank you very much, viewers. This station, therefore, is for Africa, with Africa, by Africa. Ciao.